Ternoa is one of those altcoins where I really start scratching my head, because on the one hand you've got very positive aspects around the project. You've got a visible team that seems to be actively working and developing and bringing the project forward. On the other hand, you've got a price appreciation that's very, very rapid, where I really can't find the source of that appreciation. So let's look at the details. Let's jump into all of this. First things first, right? This is Ternoa, ticker symbol CAPS, C-A-P-S, and it's up by almost 80% the last 24 hours. A very nice chart. And this did not just start yesterday. When we look at the appreciation relative to wrapped Ethereum, that's this chart here, we see since middle of December of last year, an appreciation of more than 700%. So a very nicely performing altcoin. That being said, what I found interesting around this, right, when diving into the blockchain details, when I look at the number of holders, this is not increasing that much. And this is incredibly uncommon. Usually when you see a rally like this, you see retail jumping on this because maybe some random YouTuber shilled the project. Whatever it is, right? Usually some kind of marketing pushes up the price, pushes up the number of holders of a token. This is not what's happening here. The price appreciates even though the number of holders isn't going up that much. Now this holder graph is adjusted to a degree, so you need to have at least 100 tokens in order to be part of this graph. So that's now $4.6 US, right? So the ones that only have like a few cents of the token are not counted here. You can even look at this in terms of the whales, right? You can look at if you had at least, say, $10,000 worth of the token, what are those kinds of people doing, right? Are there now massive whales, more whales coming into the project, pushing this up? When we look at that, right, you need to have here at least 200,000 tokens. This is, of course, a bit more bumpy in terms of volatility, right? Sometimes the whales sell, sometimes they buy. But also, you don't really see this number going up at all, right? It's pretty stable, but at the same time, the price is shooting up quite massively. And when we look here at the markets, the main trading does happen decentralized on Uniswap versus wrapped Ethereum. So the trades should be on the blockchain. They are not in a centralized container. And they should be represented here in this holder graph as well. This is the daily graph. We even have this hourly, right? So we see like the little blips here as well. Still, no huge jump. So this is something I cannot yet explain why this is happening. It appears to me as if one or two or three of those whales are massively buying. So the whales that already had been buying in the past and that already had large positions, they are now buying even more, accumulating even more. And it's the ones that already exist, right? It's not that just a lot of whales come in. It's like just a very small number of whales that do all of these transactions that push up the price. This is only how I can explain these kinds of graphs. These are very, very unusual graphs. Now, what is this project, right? When we look at this fundamentally, when we don't just look at the data, it is a Polkadot-based blockchain that's focused on NFTs. Okay, so proof of stake, NFT focused. So you can build advanced NFTs that are not just pictures, but you can have all kinds of different functionality in the NFTs. What I like about the website when you first get into this is you don't just get sold to buy their token, right? They seem to be developer focused because they ask here to start building. That's the highlighted call to action, CTA, and then you've got the documentation. You see in the documentation how to actually build on this. So it looks like they're really trying to gather some developers to use the technology. And when you look at their GitHub repository, also very prominent on their website, you find there is activity. There are commits being made here to the documentation, here to the JS-based library. Just 3 days ago, it was updated. So really, there is work happening on that project. Now, what are some potential red flags? The first kind of red flag that I found is the management doesn't seem to be too interested in pushing out the name internationally. So when you go to their YouTube channel, you have a few subscribers, okay, 2.6K, not huge, but it's a small cryptocurrency. You don't see any video published in the last 3 months. You only have 500 views, and all of those are simply just recordings of French-speaking people, right? Of the management that speaks French. This seems to be a France-based project. So really, if you want to learn about all of this, you have to be able to speak French, and you can go through their YouTube, but their YouTube really isn't really that helpful, right? It's not that popular. The second thing that I noticed about this project fundamentally is the LinkedIn, right? So you look at always who's behind something, and of course, right, the CEO is from France, right? He's based at least in France. There you go, Michael Canu, and he's been with Ternoa for the last 4 years. Okay, that's fine, right? It's not just a project that opened up 2 months ago. Now, when you look at the CMO, that's not that much history, right? It's only the last 8 months, also in France. At least probably in the same office, right? It's not just a distributed system across all kinds of random countries. But still, right, in the last 8 months, they have exchanged their CMO, or it's the very first time a CMO is on the team. Then when we look further into LinkedIn, right, we've got another co-founder, not really specialized what this co-founder is doing. 2.5 years for Ternoa, also doing something else on the side. So not really sure what to think of that. Then you've got another person being active, and that's the security engineer in the last 10 months. So when you look at the senior people that have been with Ternoa, even though the project has been around, according to this co-founder, for the last 4 years, not a lot of the senior people have been around for too long. That's a bit of a red flag. The activity on YouTube is a bit of a red flag. And then the price appreciation here seems to be driven by very few players. So they can very likely simply just decide for the price to come down again, right? They simply just sell their position again. This can easily crash. On the other hand, you also see that there's not a lot of mass excitement yet. So I expect when publishing this video that actually not a lot of people are going to watch it, because simply retail hasn't yet noticed any of this. And this is probably due to Ternoa's low market cap. It's simply just at market rank 500 or 540. That being said, the market cap is somewhat liquid, because when you look at this token, right, this is something you always want to do. When you check out the token, you go to DEX Screener and you look for the liquidity pool size. It's 1 million. So it's not too bad in terms of liquidity size. For that kind of an asset, it's not too bad. Very often you see, say, a crypto on rank 600 or on 400, and they've got a liquidity pool decentralized of just like 50K or 100K. So just a few players can really move the market a lot. With 1 million, you're already somewhat of a mid-sized project, right? It is very risky. It does move a lot, and it seems to be moving on a whim of very few whales. Feel free to look further into those purchases, right? Wherever the price went up, feel free to check out what single whale address is doing all of those purchases, but it's very likely not distributed across many different addresses. So you can probably simply just search through all of this, find the 1 or 2 wallets that do all of this, and then you can monitor that wallet in specific, right? You can then check out, oh, is this specific person maybe selling again? And once they do, you probably want to get out, because that's then when the price action reverts. So be careful with this, right? This is ultra high risk. The price is now currently pretty similar to where it started out, right? We had our downwards movement. Now it's pretty much back to where it started out. It is going pretty parabolic, and it is a mixed bag. It's not just a pure shill project. There is something behind it. There is an ecosystem that's trying to be built. There are people with faces behind this. But the current rally definitely is very risky. So take this at your own risk. Not doing any kind of recommendation whether or not to jump on this. Simply make sure that if you do bet on this token, right, on Ternoa, on caps, that you either don't put in your whole life savings, or that you've got a proper stop loss to exit early enough. There's more discussions around altcoins both in our Telegram and in our Discord. Feel free to join there. Looking forward to see you there, and see you on the next video as well. Bye.